Yo, what's up, guys? So, today we're going to talk about a topic that I've been seeing a ton online, and that is the concept of the cost of living in America. And you've probably seen it in ways like, how does anybody live in America? The cost of living's gotten bananas. All these old people ruined everything, and it was so much easier on their day. It's just been like super viral, and I've definitely got some strong thoughts on it. And I'm probably going to say a lot of things people don't like. So let me just start by giving credit where credit's due. Like, this definitely is the case that people have just been priced out in certain cases. That's people living on, I don't know, $20,000 a year, or people living in extremely high cost of living cities who were just born there. And I guess this video is not really for them, and I got a lot more empathy for people in instances like that. But unfortunately, I don't have a real good solution for you. That is tough, and that is real, and it's upsetting. But this video is targeted more towards people in, like, I don't know, probably the $50,000 to $100,000 a year like salary range. And I'll see these people recording from what seems like a very nice house and talking about their salary, and then, or I'll see them a lot of times. This is huge. You'll see them in a car, like recording this video about how hard everything is, and you look at the logo in the back, and it's like, yeah, dude, you're in a car that should command like a $300,000 a year salary, and you're complaining why you have no money. So I think for people in like that $50,000 to $100,000 a year range that are complaining about it, like, I just don't know that it's always the case that it's too hard to live. And let me start by giving my backstory. Like, I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. Like, not that distant past, I lived in the city of Philadelphia with two roommates, and I was making, I think, $52,000 a year, maybe. My rent for my one bedroom was $770. I think I paid another $100 in utilities. And, I was pretty conservative with my food and everything, but I definitely would go out on the weekends and like drink and get like bar food. And I invested in my 401k, and I invested in stocks outside of my 401k. And like, I did have like a somewhat decent life. So I know that it can be done. And this would have been like 2016. So maybe with inflation, call 50 like 60 or 65 grand a year today. But and that was a city. This wasn't like out in the sticks somewhere. So if you're in that salary range and you're saying that the cost of living in America, it can't be done, like, I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding a shoulder for you to cry on, just because I have done it. And not only that, I know people still doing it today. So I kind of want to get into like why this phenomenon is so big right now, what's driving it, what's perpetuating it, what's true about it, what's exaggerating it, and just kind of give my thoughts and break it down. And the first piece I want to talk about is, these old people, the boomers and the greatest generation, how they had it so easy. And, they would just wake up every morning and there'd be a big bag of money on their doorstep and a Wall Street Journal. And I'm not saying there weren't aspects of that time that like weren't easier, because there absolutely was. I think one big one is definitely the cost of education. The cost of education's got preposterous over the past few years. But I don't know. The part of it is, though, like, I went to college in 2013 or 2009 to 2013, and I went to an in-state school, and I lived in my parents' house, and my entire 4-year education was 40 grand. So that's still a lot of money, but I'm seeing people constantly with like $200,000 of debt, and it's unfortunate because, like, when you're 18, like, you're pretty stupid. At least I was. I'll speak for myself. And I don't know that people should be allowed to make those decisions. And if you already made that decision, I'm not going to bash you. Like, that's unfortunate, and I feel for you in that case. But if you haven't, if you're someone who hasn't made that decision yet, like, find out if an education is absolutely necessary for you. And, it can be done on a better budget. And that's going to help you avoid a lot of these problems that I'm hearing people talk about. Another thing that the olds had was, I think, the cost of rent, the cost of houses, relatively speaking, inflation adjusted, is probably a lot worse today. And that is a real problem, I feel, for people. But the answer is you're going to have to, a lot of people think that, like, because they have a job and they went to college, like, they should live in a house like what their parents had, and it should be whatever, some 4-bedroom and like, that's awesome if you can afford it, but if your salary can only afford a 2-bedroom apartment, then I'm sorry, but you got to live in a 2-bedroom apartment. That's just the way it goes. And I know it's not fun, but like, what are you gonna be mad the grass is green? Are you gonna be mad the sky is blue? Like, it just is what it is. So I think when people sit there and they try to live beyond their means in that sense, like a house, a car, and an education will set you back so hard if you overpay for them. And times are tough, I get that, but just so much of it is self-imposed. And I don't see anyone ever like holding themselves accountable. I know it's a sentence that makes so many people upset, but I'm just going to tell you as like a 34-year-old dude, I didn't always think this way, but once I did, my life changed. Like, if you don't hold yourself accountable, nobody will. And holding yourself accountable is not fun because then you got to look at like harsh truths. But the sooner you do that and you kind of get used to that uncomfortable way of looking at the world, like, dude, your life becomes so much easier because you know, like, if you go, hey, the reason I'm in, 80% of the situations I'm in life are my own fault, and you know you're always going to have to think that, well, in the future, when you go to make a decision and you know that you're going to be the one accountable for it, you won't make the bad decision because then instead of sitting there and blaming society or blaming the olds, you'll only have yourself to blame. And if that's the way you look at the world, then you're not going to make as many bad decisions. And that's like such an old man thing to say, but I so wish I could go back when I was 20 and just like take that piece of information and drill it into my head because I would have saved myself years of heartache. So I'm not judging people who do it. Like, I really am not. Like, I want what's best for everybody. So just if you are like a young person and your first inclination is to kind of pass blame, I don't know, man, just don't for a little while and watch how your life changes. But anyway, kind of digress there a bit. Something also worth noting though, so sure, like the old people definitely had stuff a little easier than us in some senses, but also like worth noting with these old people, they didn't have $1,300 iPhones. They didn't have TVs in every room of the house. Oftentimes, they only had one car for their entire family. They didn't have Amazon. Like, I say this to my wife every single day. Like, every single time I walk out on the step, something new is in from Amazon. And I just don't think these old people were doing that either. So where some things were easier for them, they also, I don't think, were consuming to the same level that we're consuming today. And when I sit back and ask myself why that is, this probably isn't going to come as a surprise to a lot of people, but I think social media really sort of like amplifies and perpetuates this culture of overconsumption. And then once they're done getting you to buy anything and everything, like social media will then go and amplify this message of how everything's too hard. Nobody can afford everything today from the same influencers I was just talking about, where they're sitting in luxury cars or they're sitting in houses that are far bigger than mine, telling me how they can't afford anything. And it's like, all right, man. And I don't even know if the people spreading that are actually like in that situation. Like, that might not be their real life at all. But like, victimhood content spreads fast. Crazy doom scrolling is fun, and math and accountability is like so not fun. And as a person who does a lot of math and holds himself accountable for stuff, I'm telling you for sure it's not fun. But I think it's skewing the reality for people. And ultimately, like, it's only screwing people over because I have friends and they come to me and they have like these mentalities and they come to me and tell me how nothing can be afforded and, but they're still buying all this stuff all the time. And they're like, well, my life sucks, so I have to buy this to feel good. And I get that. And like, sure, it's easy, but the reality is, dude, like, time's going to keep passing and you're going to keep getting older. And I got news for you, man. If something hasn't worked for the last year, hasn't worked for the last 2 years, it's not going to probably start working tomorrow. And it might take you 5 years. It might take you 10 years. I hope it doesn't take you to your 60s. But at some point, you're going to be an old person and, your actions are going to have consequences. And it's just like, you can sit there and be like, oh, society screwed me over, this, that, and the other. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but society also doesn't care. And then you're the one who's poor and they're 65 years old and you don't have the ability to go and make any money at this point. So I don't know. It's like, it's not a judgment. My thought process is never to try to make people feel bad. But if you're someone and this is your habit, I can empathize with you because I've been like it. And it didn't serve me in my early 20s and I wish I would have turned it around earlier. But my advice would be to kind of just start to take some sort of level of accountability maybe rather than doom scrolling and feel like the world's falling apart, set yourself a goal for life. And that goal for life doesn't have to be like I'm sitting in an Aston Martin smoking cigars. Like I got a simple goal for my life, and I don't know, maybe it doesn't sound fun to people, but I love it. I want to become an executive in my career field by the time I'm in my 50s. So that gives me a long enough runway, and there's a clear path to get there. I want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I want to continue to get better at guitar, piano, and making music every day. And I should have said it up front because it's my most important goal. I want to be a great father. I want to be a great husband to my wife and my son. And I don't know, it's a simple life, and I don't think any of that's going to be super cool on Instagram. But like, I'm chasing all four or five of those pursuits in parallel. And like, my life feels so much fuller than it was when I was out trying to just like buy stuff to make me happy. So that might not work for you, and that's totally cool if it isn't. But if any of this is resonating with you, like, I don't know, I would just encourage you to sort of stop the doom scrolling, figure out what accountability means to you, and just set yourself like a few goals. If you could wave a wand in 10 years and have your life be what it would be, and don't overshoot for it, make it like a realistic goal. And when you find your personalized goal that works for you, then you just sort of every day wake up and you start taking little steps in that direction. And I feel like it just brings so much more of like a mentally healthy, stable vibe than what I see on the internet and what I've lived myself firsthand. Or something. I don't know. It's been working so far. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And also, if you've made it this far, I just got to thank you. Hope you guys got something out of this. And I don't know. Let me know if there's any topics in particular you want me to discuss in future videos. That's all I got for you. Peace.